Hello and welcome to another free code session. My name is Jason Bach and I'm in a better mood because I figured stuff out. So I had to cut the last episode into two, maybe even three. I don't remember how long that actually ended up going, but it was kind of depressing. I got kind of really frustrated with it, and I even tweeted something today that, it's every time I do something with analyzers and cofixes, it's like I'm just flailing. Like I'm just try this, try that, and there's no rhyme or reason behind it. And even if there was massively good documentation on it, it's weird. It's still almost like it's relative to what you're trying to solve. And I tell this to people all the time. If you're going to do something with the compiler API, you really have to state your problem well. What is it that you're trying to do? What is it that you're searching for or looking for? And what do you want to do to solve your problem? So it can be frustrating. If I was actually on the compiler API team, I'd know a lot more about everything that's going on there. And I learned some things. So I actually got to this one as well, but I finally figured out, is this the one? Yeah, so this is the rule and then the code fix. So just walk you through the code fix code, and then I'll walk you through the code I just created, and then I'm going to create tests for that, and there is no code fix for that. And then I'm going to talk about the remaining stuff in this this feature, and then close it out for tonight, because I want to read and go to bed. So the code fix for this, is this. So what I was struggling with last night was trying to figure out, how do I get these to essentially change the underlying type and also the method declarations identifier and its return type. And I felt like I kept ping-ponging, like I was going back and forth. I could get either the base type to fix or the method stuff to fix, but I couldn't do them both. And I know the object model is immutable. I know the trees are immutable, but I thought like I was following it the right way and making sure that everything was updating on the thing that just got updated, and it just wasn't working. So I finally spent a little bit of time on it this morning and got to this, which works. So what I do is in the code fix, and this is also something I need to look at with my code fixes, because I don't quite understand partial classes and partial methods and all the combinations that you can do. But this is why sometimes you see, instead of, I was looking at this thing here, but if I want to fix it, I might have to worry about where it's all declared somewhere else, because there are these partial classes and partial methods and stuff like that, and so it may be partially defined here. And I'm saying this very opaquely because I don't know the exacts around partial types. I've done it very, very infrequently, so I don't know all the rules that go around with it. But that's why sometimes you see get declaring syntax references, and so I need to be a little smarter as to say, if I'm going to fix stuff, maybe I need to go back on this stuff and say, hey, if I had these in partial types or partial stuff, what would that look like when I updated it? But in any event, I'm going through all the references here. And then what I do first is on the type node that I have is get the base list. So what I do on the base list is, nope, not that. Come on. Oh, I meant this one. Sorry. I was like, why is it going to a metadata view? It should go to this. And so I go through all of the base types of the type declaration. And then I say, well, either you said you're a business rule. You could also say I business rule. And I'm just trying to be thorough. I'm just like, just look at the types that are there. And if it is a business rule and I business rule, I could also, looking at this before I commit the PR, I should also say, make sure it's actually in the right namespace and assembly and do all that stuff. But I think if I'm getting to the code fix, I've already narrowed it down to the right stuff. So this is okay. Anyway, so I simply create a simple base type based off of a new identifier name. And this with trivia from, what I was also doing is starting to capture, well, if the current node had leading and then also trailing trivia, I had to incorporate that into the new node. And that was kind of awkward. And I just stumbled across this last night. I think this was actually an IntelliCode suggestion when you did this, when I did a dot here. Well, since it's there, I was almost sure in some places I was actually getting with trivia from the show up as a suggestion. And it makes sort of sense. I mean, well, it definitely makes sense for what I was trying to do. Which is I'm still fighting this kind of cold, weird cough thing. But instead of trying to, do leading and then trailing, this is just saying, hey, capture all the trivia from this node and apply it to the one that you're about to do. So that was a nice kick, because I was about to write that convenience method myself, and then I saw this. I'm like, perfect. This is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. So I, will basically put a substitute in for these. Otherwise, if you had like a ton of interfaces or whatever, I don't care. This one, should be always there. But the point is that I'm making the substitutions, create a new base list, and then I have my new type node. Okay. Now off of my new type node, I find the method execute. It won't be execute async, it will be execute. And then what I want to do to it is change the return type to be a task and change the name of it to be execute async. So then off of that node, I say change the return type, change identifier, and capture the trivia from the previous node, replace that in the new type node, and put that in the document, in the root, and that worked. So let me actually run this so I can show it to you in the V6 hive, so to speak, extension hive. The rosin hive, I think, is the correct wording for it. And once that comes up, then I've got I got my examples in my file, so we can check that out. Okay, why did you not pop up? You should have just popped up, but you didn't. That's okay. See, Rosalind. Preparing. Okay, so I've got a couple of other ones in here, again, for something else that I've been working on, but it should, yeah, so now we see here that they should derive. So now the code fix kicks in and says update it, and boom. So now it's perfect. It's exactly what I wanted. Okay, that's nice. That's nice. Okay, and then if I, for whatever reason, if I said here like which is going to yell because that's not been implemented yet, but if I say do the thing here, it still preserves that and still does the right thing. Okay, so this actually, I did one of those cheerleader things. I was like woohoo when I finally got this to work, because it was such a struggle to get this to work. And another thing I've said over and over again, I'll keep this up because I want to show something else there, so I'm not going to reload it again. But this is what I've said almost all the time with a lot of this stuff, is that, if you come down to the end of this is what? 100 lines of code. Where really, this is where it kind of starts, is the add code fix. That's at line 36. Comes down to here, line 102, so let's say 106. So it's like 70 lines of code. And I mean, this is just literally lines, so what it really is, it doesn't matter. I mean, what I'm saying is it's not that much code. This one is a little bit longerish, but honestly, it's not that much what you're doing here. And that's usually the case with analyzers and code fixes, I found, is that you don't have to spend a ton of code. You have to spend a ton of time. At least I do. I always get these wrong out of the gate. I always mess something up, or I don't take something into consideration. And It just takes time to get through it. But it was actually helpful to find what I'm calling the withers, because it was when I signed off last night, I actually stumbled across another code fix I had done. Was doing this, what I did up here with return type, with identifier. I'm like, oh, that's right, you can do that. And say, all right, because if you have a method and you want to change some stuff on it, you don't want to like capture all the stuff within the method and then figure out the part you have to change. You're just saying all of this except with this. Okay. So like current method node with this return type. So whatever it was is going to go away. It's not going to be this return type. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That'll make things so much better. So yeah, I should, I'm going to plug some stuff here for a second, but I should really at some point make a second edition of that one, and then also a second edition of this one, the metaprogramming one. So, but that would require the book company to say, yeah, sure, we'd love to invest time into doing a second one. Actually, the metaprogramming one would be interesting because Kevin Hazard, good guy, and we've kept in touch a little bit, but I know he's like changed his career a little bit. I think he's doing a lot more with like data stuff. So I don't know if he'd actually be interested in revisiting all that material, but that's a problem not to think about because it's not even something on the horizon on my life, so it doesn't even matter. I would like to update both of them. Actually, what I'd really like to do is update of all the books I've written, those two and my Attributes in .NET book. That was a small one, but I'd like to update that one again. And then the SIL programming one, I'd like to redo that and do a second edition of that one. But again, that's just all pie in the sky stuff. So in any event, so back to this. Got it to work, as you can see. Got all the tests there. I still have to fix the testing and how I'm doing my code fixes, but that's a separate story. So that one is done. That one is done. And so then I worked on this one. Okay. And what this one is, I'm going to jump to the gun a little bit and show you what it looks like when I don't show this. Is down here. Where is it? Oh, here, yeah. So I actually have it on the parameter I decided to put it on, which is, it's really weird if you have a business rule, and I talked to Rocky about this. It's really weird if you have a business rule that doesn't call one of these add methods. Okay? So, yeah, it's strange because the whole point of the rule is that you're getting a property or properties, and so you're trying to say either you're going to change a value, you need to say that you have an error, you have a warning, something like that. You need to call one of these add methods. And so if you don't, it's probably you missed something. Then your rule was kind of irrelevant. It didn't do anything. So I said, hey, why don't we can flag developers and tell them, hey, you missed something if you forgot to do this. Okay. So as you notice here, context is actually an error because we didn't do it. If I say context add dirty, and I'll just pass a null for now, it goes away, and you no longer have an issue. Okay. If I say context dot like just get type on this, it still has an error because you don't have one add method. Okay, so for a second it went away and I was like, did my thing have an error? But it doesn't. So how does this rule work? So basically what I did is make sure I'm a business rule, make sure the method is either execute or execute async, because it doesn't matter. In either case, you're going to get a rule context. And then that you have at least one parameter, which you should. The one thing that's a little squirrely with this is that if I could reference CSLA in the analyzers, and I could do a little bit more if Rocky changed something, which he wouldn't, do willy-nilly, but if something did change, this doesn't pick it up. So because I don't actually have a direct reference, I can't reflect upon what is in CSLA right now. But I'm assuming you're going to have at least one parameter, which is the rule context. So I capture that, and then I go through all of the invocations that are happening within execute or execute async, and then I try to find any of those invocations where the name starts with add, and the thing that you're invoking on is the same thing as the context parameter type. Okay, if you have at least one of those, you're good. If you have none of those, then report to diagnostic, and that's it. We can't fix it. We don't know what add you want to do on what property or anything like that. So we don't attempt to give a code fix for this one. So the thing what I need to do right now is say what are some of the what I want to capture is if I have at least one of all the adds in my tests, then it shouldn't be flagged. So what I really need to say is this. You could say context.add error result. Null would also be enough. Again, this isn't what you would really want to do in real code. I'm just trying to find enough to put into a test. Add informational result. Null is good. What about out value? Add out value. Null is good. Add success result. Stop processing. We'll say false. Add warning result. Null. Okay, so now we've captured all these, which is good. And so now what I need to do is I can close this out because I'm not going to come back here. I'm just going to add some tests. So what we need to do is capture the name of this, come back up here, go to that, say add tests, do all of the stuff again, now test class, and then let's copy. Copy. Good enough. Oh, didn't need that one. Once again, that, except we're going to change it to this. Oh, there's part of me that's like screaming. Yeah, that's the right one. I wish there was like a thing that you could do where you like skip over the like the camel casing or something like that, so you can move a little bit through, but whatever. Maybe there is a way to do it and I just don't know off the top of my head. I should dig in and see if I could find that. It might be a cool extensibility thing to do. Break Visual Studio badly. Yeah, that one and then that one. Okay, and then we need to do this, which is analyze when it is not a business rule. So we want that. Yeah, you would do that, wouldn't you? Oh, come on. Why would you care? That doesn't make any sense. Come on. Give me... Wow, sometimes it's like I need to actually change it, and then it said, oh, you could put that there. That was bizarre. Okay, so we have this. We need to now say analyze. Class is a business rule. If I really wanted to be pedantic, I should do all these for the async version as well. And does not call an add method. so now we need to be a little bit more thorough. I should have just, I didn't realize what I copied. Okay, so now what we need to do is, we're going to need, unfortunately, bless it. Bless your heart. I could just, yeah, I could just do that. This would be quicker than trying to actually run it, because this is what I need. Okay. So we're going to put that in there and space it out a little better, except we don't need any commentary. And we'll just make that a little smaller. Okay, so in this case, we should actually see an error. So we should see is this real context usage? Okay. So what I'm going to do is all these for business rule, and I'm going to do it from business rule async. And I'm sure I could come up with a way to do, like, collapse these all into reusable tests and stuff like that, but I think that would actually, and calls and dirty property. Oops. And now it should be again array.empty of string. Yes. So let's run all these tests. Because I am getting to 22, and I do want to, I really do not want to get over. What happened? Oh, no, that shouldn't matter. Okay, shut you down, start you up again because you're acting weird. Yes, I know the key combination is bound to a something or other. Perfect. Okay, so we'll just, I'm going to sketch out what I want to do here, which is, I'm going to do this off camera because time. So what I want to do is create all these rules for just business rule. And then I'm going to go through all of them and do them exactly the same except for business rule async. And just because that case exists as well. So, so it's good. This is all solved. So the one thing I want to finish on before close it up is this, which is, yeah, so this is the one I'm just doing right now. I'm putting the test to, okay? This is the one that I just figured out last night / this morning, and have that in there. So that's good. This one actually is one I'm debating with Rocky. Okay, so here's the thing. If I come into my rules here, what you can actually do is, and I'll take this out, public A. You can say this dot is dirty. I'm sorry, is async is equal to true. Okay. Now for this old way of doing it, this is actually, I got to keep it in for now because you could actually have this, but this is going to lead to some debate. You had to have this in here because you were doing async void. Okay. And actually, yeah, I can't. Okay, the general case, this stuff I actually definitely have to do because this is just purely a synchronous method and those are perfectly valid. But for the async one, The old way was to say right away that your method could be async. And then the contract that you had to hold, because this was like, this whole rules engine was done before task await async was in play, done in Silverlight. So that's when it started to become originated because of asynchronous work. So what you had to say is, I think on the context, there's a complete method or something like that. Okay. Well, if I just built a analyzer to tell you if you have an asynchronous rule, upgrade to business rule async. Why, if you have an asynchronous rule, why would you actually call complete on it anymore? And why would you call is async at all? That should be irrelevant. Maybe because of the hierarchy of the types that is in CSLA, I think Rocky was alluding to, maybe you can't even do that. But I think it should be one of those things, if you're in an async method, really is async becomes obsolete. Because, again, we're going to be taking all these asynchronous rules that are in business rule and moving them to business rule async. So that will no longer exist. So this thing was basically saying that you have to call complete for an asynchronous rule. But what I was saying to Rocky was, it's weird, because if your method is async and you have a task returning, then the natural flow of code should be is that you just await it. And once await comes back, then you're done. You shouldn't have to say, before I call this method, has it marked itself as async, the whole object through is async, then call the method, and then I don't know when complete gets called, if that's like some callback to then tell CSLA, okay, now this method is done. That's really squirrely. So you'd think that if you could say, hey, you're deriving from business rule async, then just go down this pure async path. And if you're a regular business rule, then don't. And I get what he would say is, well, there's also still the possibility that somebody may be doing a business rule that isn't upgraded with your stuff, and so we still have to support that. I'd say yes, but for a business rule async, there's really, I'm like, unless I don't understand the machinery of CSLA, and even then I would argue you don't want to do this. You'd really want to have just an await call, and once it's been awaited, you're done. There's no reason to check is async. There's no reason to check complete or do any of that stuff. It should be meaningless. So what he didn't know for certain, but what I'm going to push him on either way, or at least have a discussion with him, is saying, let's actually review this, because that feels weird. And even if this is supposed to be what you're doing for the original way of doing it, again, I have an analyzer now in place that's going to be pushing you in the other direction. So let's not even do this work, because if you don't need to call it, you're going to be moving to business rule async, and then there's no reason for me to put the time in to actually figure this one out. And this was going to be a challenge, because finding if you called it or not was not going to be the problem. The thing that I thought we could do is put it in as a code fix, but it would have been difficult. Or at least I didn't know how to do it offhand, which is find all the exit points out of the method, all the places where you could break out of the method. And I'm sure that's in there somewhere. But I would need to find that, and then right at those points, add in a call to context complete with all the trivia and formatting in place. So that was going to be a little difficult. Would have been a fun challenge, but still work that I would have needed to do. So I didn't really want to go down that route, because that would have taken some time, and I just didn't want to do that. So so I said, okay, never mind. Well, not never mind, but just, well, let me see what Rocky says at some point, and maybe this third bullet point just becomes meaningless. So we'll see. In any event, I'm almost close with the second one, and then I can close out this one. And then there's a whole bunch of things, again, I have on my list for to-dos, and I have absolutely no problem. I'm going to have to spend some time editing videos that I currently have, and getting them up into the YouTube backlog, so that they're not so that I'm not want for material. It would be really nice if I could get all the way through like mid-January. At this point, it's like a week before Thanksgiving, so that'd be cool. And I got to get that done, and then I can just start recording. But I've got, now I've got, some stuff coming up in March for VS Live events, but I will slowly start to work on that stuff. But I want to just have fun now for at least a month or so, and just fun projects like this, do some more recording, and we'll see what's on the plate next time. So that's all for now. Thank you all for watching. Leave comments and questions below. See you in the next episode.